One of the best things and also one of the worst things about being in your 20s is the fact that almost every decision you make in this time period of your life can completely change the trajectory of the rest of your life. And I guess this could be true at any age, but this is disproportionately true in your 20s. Many of the biggest life decisions we make in our 20s. Decisions about continuing college or continuing education, future career track, possibly getting your first real job. Statistically, you're also likely to be dating the person you decide to marry at some point in your 20s.
It's also in this decade that we start to get out on our own and earn enough money to support ourselves without the aid of anyone else. We start to develop our own financial habits, like how often we eat out, how large of a car payment we have, the amount of money we save each month, and how many credit cards we use, or if we even have a credit card or not.
And because of how disproportionately the habits we form in our 20s affect the rest of our lives, it's these habits that will very likely determine how wealthy we are in the years and possibly even decades to follow.
And for example, we were reading a post the other night on Reddit that was titled, "Life Pro Tip, Get Your Finances in Order in Your 20s or Spend Your 30s Repairing the Damage."
Written by somebody who was obviously frustrated with the decisions they made in their 20s, trying to warn others not to make the same mistakes they did. And this post really resonated with us because this is pretty much our story. We developed a lot of bad habits when it came to money in our 20s. And because of that, we put ourselves in $120,000 of debt without really the income to pay for it. We then had to spend many years after that undoing those habits and paying everything off, which meant delaying things we would have been able to do otherwise and saying no to things we didn't really want to say no to. And even to this day, we are still kind of dealing with some of the residual consequences of things that happened almost a decade ago. But it was in this process of kind of getting our lives back together that we noticed something very subtle but very profound about the people in the financial position that we wanted to be in the future. There was a very big difference between them and us. That difference was they had very different habits than we did. Very different.
So it's with the rest of the video that we want to share some simple habits that we know now that we wish we had known in our 20s that would have saved us $120,000 of debt and a decade of our lives. And that you can also implement into your own life to make money even faster and get you on the path to becoming very wealthy. And the first millionaire habit we wish we knew in our 20s is living below your means. And this is probably very obvious, but it's the most important. And it seems to be the one people have the most difficulty with.
So we live in a world that is saturated with companies trying to sell you their products everywhere they can. It's estimated that people in general see up to 10,000 ads per day. It's not per month, this is per day. Whether that be on websites, YouTube videos like this one, magazine covers, radio ads, TV commercials, billboards, the list goes on and on and on. But the whole purpose of these ads is to kind of break through your psychology and convince you that you need what they're selling. You don't need what they're selling. It's important to recognize this because one of the ways that many people go broke is trying to look rich by buying all these things they don't need or maybe can't afford.
This is the path we were on and it didn't turn out very well. And what's worse is the vast majority of the ads you see on a day-to-day basis are for things that will make you poorer over time. Things like jewelry, cars, makeup, clothing that's too expensive, watches, technology that you don't need, a $2,000 purse when a $50 one will be just fine.
All these things go down in value rather than up. So buying them will just make your net worth decrease over time rather than increase. So living below your means allows you to do three things with your money. It allows you to save for the future. It allows you to buy the things you need to survive, like food, shelter, water, and clothing. And it also allows you to buy the things that will actually make you wealthy. So if you're unsure about how to get started, developing a monthly budget or monthly spending plan is a great first step because by doing that, that will show you how much money you're spending on the things that you need to spend money on, how much more money you're spending on things that you don't really need to live on, how much money you can cut from your budget completely or maybe just decrease spending on. If you don't know how to do that, you can search our channel for budget videos. You can also just search YouTube in general. We have a few videos about budgeting on our channel. We'll also link our budget template in the description. That'd be a good first step.
Number 2, investing money rather than spending it. So instead of developing the habit of buying things that go down in value over time, like we mentioned before, wealthy people and millionaires have developed the habit of buying things that go up in value over time. So in other words, they invest more than they spend, whether that be in stocks, index funds, real estate, or other businesses.
Or things that may go down in value over time, but they can still use as a tool to make more money than they're losing. For example, one of the things that we're using right now that goes down in value over time is this camera that we're recording with, but it has earned us much more money than we have lost in it. Something else would maybe be like a truck being used as a company vehicle that's used to make sales with. So Brit and I have been trying to build this habit over the last year and a half. We kind of cut out spending money on things that we didn't really need a long time ago, but we're developing this habit of buying things that go up in value, and our net worth has more than doubled because of it.
Number 3, pursuing education over entertainment. Jim Rohn once said, "Time is our most valuable asset, yet we tend to waste it, kill it, and spend it rather than invest it."
You know what my life used to look like? And this is very embarrassing talking about it on camera. I used to go to work, come home, play video games until 3 in the morning, and then go to bed. I played video games just as long or even longer than I was at work. But you know what I wasn't doing? I wasn't learning. I wasn't expanding my mind. And I did this for 2 or 3 years before finally realizing that this was not going to bring Brit and I to our goals or make us become wealthy. Millionaires and wealthy people don't just invest their money, they also invest their time. They go to seminars, they pay for mentors, they read for self-improvement. They understand that their mind is the most effective and powerful tool they have.
And we read somewhere that millionaires spend at least 30 minutes of their day reading. And Warren Buffett, for example, spends 80% of his day reading. This is not to say that you shouldn't have some sort of entertainment or fun in your life. The emphasis should be placed on education first rather than entertainment.
Millionaire habit number 4, we wish we knew in our 20s, and that is embracing failure and maybe even hoping for it in certain circumstances rather than fearing it. And this is also a tough one for me to talk about because I still struggle with this one even now. And I feel like a little bit of a hypocrite for even bringing it up, just because it's not something that I've gotten fully into the habit of doing. But this is something that we've noticed with a lot of millionaires, and that is they take risks, and they're not afraid of taking risks, and they're not afraid of failing. And if I could pinpoint one thing that has disproportionately held me back in life, that has hindered my ability to pursue the goals and the dreams that Brit and I have set out for ourselves, it would be the fear of failing. Whether that be from just screwing up, or losing time, or losing money, or just embarrassing myself and reminding everyone around me that I'm not perfect. And I think for me, this was programmed into my brain at an early age, starting in school, going from like kindergarten all the way up into college, working within a system that rewards perfection and punishes you for making mistakes or not being smart enough. But I think the biggest difference that Brit and I have realized between school and the real world is that in the real world, failure isn't the opposite of success. Failure is actually like part of success.
And Albert Einstein once said, "A person who never made a mistake never tried anything new." If you're learning new things, which in our opinion we feel like you should be doing, you're going to fail at something at some point. Most things are going to be difficult at first before they're easy, but you're going to learn a lot more in your failure than you will in success.
So we think it's important that you not only learn to take risks, but also learn to separate the value you have as a person from the results of any attempts you make at like trying to have a better life or trying to get something to work.
Number 5, they legally avoid taxes as much as possible. And the key word here is legally. 2 of the biggest expenses you'll have in your life are interest on the loans you take out and income taxes.
Millionaires and the ultra wealthy have figured out a way to keep most or all of their income without paying taxes on it. And they do it through tax laws that reward earning money in certain ways or using money in certain ways. For example, did you know that there is more than one type of income? Because we didn't know this in our 20s, we actually didn't know this up until a year and a half, 2 years ago. There's earned income, also called active income. There are short-term capital gains, there are long-term capital gains, there are dividends, and there's many other forms of income. Not all of them are taxed equally, and some of them aren't taxed at all. For example, if your only income is qualified dividend income, you legally don't have to pay taxes on any of it up to $40,400 a year if you're single or $80,800 a year if you're married. Same thing with long-term capital gains. Another example is on the sale of your primary home. You can profit $250,000 tax-free if you're single or $500,000 tax-free if you're married. If you're married and bought your home 5 years ago at $400,000 but are selling it today at $900,000, you don't have to pay taxes on any of the appreciation. You can profit $500,000 tax-free. There are also other tax benefits just depending on the type of work you do and what you invest in. But we would encourage everyone to start looking into these things and get a good CPA who knows what they're doing, who can kind of like maybe start pointing you in the direction to save as much money as you can on taxes or take advantage of as many tax laws as you can. We're not accountants or CPAs, so don't just take our word for it. But in our minds, the more money that you earn that you can keep, the better.
Number 6, surround yourself with people you aspire to be like. This is important because of the principle that says you are the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most. So if you surround yourself with people who have a poor mindset, that mindset will eventually make its way into your finances. And on the other hand, if you surround yourself with people who have a wealthy mindset, that mindset will make its way into your finances. Millionaires understand this and are very intentional about who they have in their lives and allow to have influence over their lives. This is also why we think you should be very intentional about who you allow to have influence over your life.
Number 7, and that is separating yourself from the herd. This was something very difficult for me to learn because for the longest time in my life, I was just someone who naturally followed the crowd. I was never the type of person who enjoyed being the center of attention. Even at my own birthday parties, when people were singing happy birthday, it was always awkward and I was always wanting the song to end. But I was always pretty content following the crowd and looking more or less like everyone else, blending in with everyone else, because when I did that, no one really paid attention to me. That all changed toward the end of my college career, however, because I was at a pretty rough spot mentally. I had been in college for 8 years, going from one degree program to another degree program without graduating, hating most of it. I was also in a job that I didn't like very much because I believed that I needed a degree to get a better job. And this is when I realized that everything that I hated about my life was the result of me following everyone else and not thinking for myself. And there wasn't an easy fix to this, but I started with dropping out of school and creating a business of my own.
There used to be a time in our lives where we were okay with being average. We're not okay with being average anymore.
Because you know what average looks like? It looks like living someone else's life instead of your own. It looks like making someone else rich instead of yourself. It looks like $120,000 of consumer debt that you can barely afford to make the payments on. It looks like spending 40 to 50 years of your life gaining wealth just to spend the last 20 years of your life keeping up your health. So our advice to you, don't be average. Don't follow the crowd. There are so many artificial boundaries placed on us by other people. Don't be afraid to think outside of those. Don't be afraid to be different or go in the opposite direction of everyone else.
And we're not saying to be different just for the sake of being different, but we are saying to be you.
And with that being said, guys, those are the 7 millionaire habits we wish we knew in our 20s. We hope this video was helpful or educational or inspiring in some way. If it was, please give us a huge thumbs up. It helps out tremendously with the YouTube algorithm.
Also, subscribe for more, and you can follow us on Instagram at It's Mike and Brit. We post there every now and then.
Yeah, thanks again, guys. We'll see you next time.
Bye. So if you surround yourself with people with a poor mindset, so if you surround yourself with people who have a poor mindset, you're most likely. I can't say serious.
Okay.
I don't know why.